the things that you think you've done wrong with your podcast so far. Like if you started over, is there anything that you would change? I know it's about to launch, but you've recorded several, you've worked with our company. Like what would you do differently just from what you know now? Like, because I think that the listener probably has some preconceived notions of things, and you probably did too. And you're at that place where you can really see the differences between them, and you're learning them right now. Is there something that you would have done differently?
So before I answer that question, I want to bridge this gap because we're jumping from meetup to podcast. People are like, what the hell does a meetup have to do with a podcast? So I'm going to take 2 minutes and bridge the gap between why I even started talking about a meetup and how that played into the podcast. So I already shared on this interview that our company decided to focus on capital raising and building relationships with people with capital. So I remember specifically, I was outside one evening, just kind of meditating and thinking like, how do we get in front of these people? How do we get in front of this type of capital? And we already knew that we wanted to build relationships with business owners, people that weren't in real estate, but people that had capital. And they were growing their businesses. They were doing very well. They wanted to invest in real estate, but they didn't know how or where to start. So we kind of already had the idea of our avatar and who this person was. And as I was sitting there thinking about how do we get in front of these people, I started thinking about the meetup and the value that I got from the meetup. And the biggest value that I received was connecting to our guest speakers that I invited to our meetup. I connected with people that had way more experience than me in the multifamily investing space. But because I had that thought leadership platform, because I had that meetup, I had a reason to reach out to them and invite them to speak. And when I did that, I now had a chance to connect with them one-on-one before the event, during the event, and following up after the event. And I've created some incredible relationships with people that have really helped me and in a way mentored me along my journey because I had that platform. So as I'm sitting outside my home this one evening, just thinking about how do we get in front of this capital, I was thinking about the meetup and I realized,
because you guys raise capital,
correct,
to buy huge apartments and other
correct,
types of deals. Okay.
Correct.
All right. So you want to raise more. And so the most beneficial thing for you is to be with having these interpersonal relationships with high net worth individuals or correct, companies. And so you're like, how can we keep doing that? How can we do more of that? And right, so what did you find? What did you learn?
That's where the thought came to me, like maybe we do a podcast, because with it's a lot of work putting together a meetup and to have a successful one. And you have experience in this space too, Adam. So you know, that's one of the things we talked about when we sat down. It's a lot of work. And for us, I didn't want to connect with one person a month at a meetup, a potential business owner one a month. Like I knew if we wanted to be successful in this, we'd have to connect with multiple a month. So I said, why not do a podcast? And for our podcast, I wanted to interview our avatar. I wanted to interview these business owners that we were looking for to build relationships with, to invest with us. So I wasn't thinking about really growing our listener base. And I know that's going to happen organically between the content we're putting out and with your team's help in marketing it. But the people we were targeting were not our listeners. It was actually the person that we wanted to interview. And I know most podcasts do maybe one episode a week, or they might do one every other week. I knew that in order to get in front of these people and at the caliber and speed that we wanted to, we were going to have to do more. So we actually decided, before I even approached you, I said, okay, if I'm going to do a podcast, I'm going to want to do 2 or 3 episodes a week, because that's 15 multimillionaires a month that I'm going to get in front of. Instead of one. And yes, it's a podcast, so I'm not sitting there shaking their hand, but you could still build pretty good connections with people on a podcast, especially if the person you're interviewing is the one you're trying to build a relationship with. So I knew I could be a lot more intentional with my questions and getting to know them and asking them about themselves and building that rapport and trust that would not convert them to an investor, but at least at minimum, open that door of opportunity. And that's just connect with them, get them talking, get to know them, get to know their business, what it is that what they're looking for. Because from that, then I can determine what their needs are to see if it's a good fit with what our company does. And that's how the experience of growing the meetup really sparked the idea of starting a podcast, because I saw the value in connecting with the speaker, the guest coming to that event. And I'm literally doing the same exact thing with the podcast. It's just
15 times more.
15 times more in a video format. Right.
Yeah.